Hi.
That's Andy.
Yes, it is.
Hi. Paul Bennett here from Aaron and Partners.
Thank you. Thanks for calling me back.
I'm sorry it was slightly delayed. It was just I was in a meeting and I'm the guy that advises most of the accountants that we act for. So it
Okay.
makes more sense for it to be me than a colleague.
Thanks. That's great. Can I just spell your name properly and your job title?
Yeah. So my first name is Paul.
Paul.
Surname is Bennett, which is Bennett.
Yep.
My job title is Partner Professional Practices. So basically I advise solicitors, GPs and accountants.
Okay.
So it's anybody who'd be in the traditional sort of partnership, but they can of course take any, there might be a limited company or an LLP nowadays, but so it's professionals I advise.
Sure. I guess for the context of this interview, I'm actually going to be I guess writing it as an interview with you. But I kind of want to come with maybe a slightly different aspect that you usually work with, in that I want to kind of give advice to C-level sort of C-level large businesses. So kind of CFOs and that kind of area. So any kind of answers that you could give would be really useful if you could put it in that sort of context.
Of course, yeah, no problems.
Okay, great. So yeah, just you've already just quickly went through it, but just maybe tell me a little bit about your background and why you're qualified to be able to kind of speak on this now.
Okay. In terms of my client base, it's dominated by solicitors, doctors, accountants, people who would normally be in a traditional partnership, although our client base includes limited companies, LLPs. The work around GDPR that we've been doing, we've been acting for businesses in the professional services sector, so we've advised law firms, accountancy firms, financial services businesses, all around their preparation for GDPR and their revised policies and procedures around GDPR. And a number of the clients that we've worked with have been sort of chief financial officers or managing partners or directors of accountancy or businesses or accountancy functions in businesses.
Fantastic. So I guess my first question on this is, how have you felt in your experience large businesses and CFOs have dealt with PR for context, we were writing 100 days of GDPR sort of framework article. So just kind of in the back, just kind of just share how you felt large businesses and CFOs have sort of dealt with GDPR after the May deadline.
Okay, so the first thing that was noticeable for larger businesses is there was a developing understanding as the 25th of May deadline was approaching of the things that those businesses hadn't foreseen in their initial planning. So there's been a definite sort of ongoing impact. So in weeks, kind of really I'm saying up to about 6 weeks after the deadline, we've still been receiving contact from clients and prospective clients saying we've identified that this is a group of individuals who need training, or this is a group of policies that need reviewing that we hadn't originally anticipated. How can we address that? So the kind of seeping nature of GDPR and the seeping nature of the importance of data into their business has really become become apparent for those larger businesses. And then the other sort of trend that we've seen is, particularly in a number of the accountancy practices that we advise, we've seen a number of fairly low-level data breaches, but triggering quite a lot of introspection about how perhaps their own internal preparations for GDPR perhaps didn't quite work for them and their client base when reality tested by the new environment. So those are the two trends that we've seen in terms of the larger kind of CFO position businesses. What we have seen is an enhanced focus on data, leading to enhanced conversations about where perhaps they're uncertain as to future compliance. So we've seen the sort of challenges emerging, and they're still emerging now, but in the first kind of 4 to 6 weeks, we were taking calls every morning and every afternoon, whereas now we're taking one of those calls every couple of days.
Sure. And just following on from that about the large business and CFOs, what sort of compliance challenges were they talking about with you?
They've been talking about where there's been minor data breaches, typically where small pockets of data, often on a spreadsheet or in a small package of documents, have gone to the wrong party, predominantly by email. And then the other challenge that we've seen is around the direct marketing agenda, where sales teams and the internal compliance teams are saying, we're being told we can't do this, but we weren't expecting that. So we're seeing marketing challenges arising from a business development perspective and a sales development perspective. So we've worked with 2 or 3 PLCs and their sales and marketing team jointly to give them training so that all understand what they can and can't do, and so we kind of debunk the myths, but also so that the things that they've realised they haven't addressed ahead of the 25th of May, that they start to develop internal processes to develop them to avoid a sort of a blockage in the sales pipeline, really.
Sure. And has it taken up resources, drained resources? Have they had to hire new people or spend money in trying to kind of get this manage the issues that they're managing with?
Predominantly, it's been allocating the time of existing team members to it, and the cost that's been incurred is really embedding that higher level of data protection knowledge in their own businesses so that they can manage it themselves. So I've given training over the last 7 months to about 3,500 people, and about 1,200 of those have been internal training courses. What we're seeing really is a training requirement, and for some businesses we've seen changes to their CRM programs, but it's been about changing user behaviours rather than changing the program itself.
So it's so has it been more of a sort of a culture and understanding rather than a technology issue?
Yes, it's definitely a culture and an understanding issue. It's not a technology issue.
Okay. So when I guess software I guess is described as GDPR compliant, etc. What does that actually what does that actually mean from your point of view?
Compliance under the GDPR regime is about ongoing management of risk and ongoing protection of personal data and special category data as it's known. So that's data involving health, trade union membership, political affiliations, things at that time. So it's been around ensuring that the systems are in place and adequate and are responding to the needs of the business, but also that they're, and this is the big cultural shift, the embedded nature of ongoing compliance has been quite a task. So we've seen a real split. So, for example, our professional service sector clients in the accountancy sector are used to ongoing risk management and ongoing compliance because that's a feature of the sector, whereas perhaps in different sectors where the finance function has taken the lead on this, the chief financial officer has taken the lead on this, often because they're the person nominated with the ICO, the Information Commissioner's Office. What we've seen with those businesses is it has been a cultural shift. So I think the accountancy businesses have found the cultural challenge less difficult than the non-professional service sector clients.
Sure. And what some non-professional industries would you be talking about that you've been working with?
We've done some work with some manufacturers. We've done some work with builders and construction, financial services. Okay. Where they're consumer-facing financial services rather than business-to-business financial services. So, we've done some work with, for example, some IFA platforms, but we've also done some work with, a couple of investment houses. Well, they face very different cultural challenges. They face very different security challenges, and that means they need to respond in different ways. So, one of our main challenges for manufacturers has been how they share information between different parts of the manufacturing and delivery process, where they're delivering actually to consumer sites, typically building developments and housing association where there's repairs ongoing there. But of course it's done in a business-to-business way, but ultimately there is personal data being transferred about individual consumers about which they have no direct client relationship because it's a business-to-business transaction. So those are the kind of challenges.
Okay, yeah, that's interesting about manufacturers. So are there any more kind of specific challenges for manufacturers other than what you've mentioned?
Just embedding cultural change and into the way in which they're manufacturing goods for specific consumers or specific individuals, whereby previously perhaps data hadn't been on the kind of reputational risk agenda under the 1998 Act, but under GDPR, those businesses are understanding their data protection obligations in a much higher way. I would say, the media attention on this has really raised expectations, and some of the early sort of client work that we've been doing since the 25th of May has been around responding to challenges, particularly in manufacturing, to how they're using personal data.
Is it also, I guess, because I guess with technology in the cloud, they're definitely making more use. Well, it's definitely more important to them than I guess ever before, and so this GDPR coming in is definitely having to make them think about things more.
Yeah, they've been able to adopt the technology over the last 5 to 8 years. But what GDPR has done is it's put the focus on what the technology does, and importantly, how they manage the risks associated with particularly data processing and data use, and the awareness of what the risks are has actually led to people taking stock of what they have perhaps adopted 5 or 6 years ago that possibly was never compliant with the old regime, but actually, they're having to address it as part of the GDPR preparations.
Sure. And what sort of advice? You've mentioned some of the issues that they're having. What sort of active advice do you seem to be giving large businesses now? What are the kind of main points that you're sharing?
Okay, definitely responding to data losses and data breaches in a way which minimises the impact on the business and enhances the business's reputation rather than hinders it. So we've been involved in a number of reports to the Information Commissioner's Office on behalf of clients, so where they're really trying to avoid being the people who are named, shamed and fined. The second thing that we've been doing is helping them revise their policies and their processes where they're realising it doesn't work, but they don't perhaps fully understand the nuances of the GDPR articles, so that each article of General Data Protection Act regulation has a separate kind of purpose, and it's that kind of technical, what's this legislation trying to achieve and how do we comply with it? So that's been part of it, the redesign of processes and policies, and then really just kind of embedding the importance of this with their staff through staff training.
Okay, that's fantastic. And I think that's my questions actually. Is there anything else that you wanted to kind of share while we were on the phone that you felt would be worth large businesses understanding or knowing about, considering it'll be, I guess, 100 days after the event?
Yeah, I mean, I would say for larger businesses, conducting a regular audit to make sure that they know what's going on and they know how it's being implemented at a relatively low level in the organisation is probably one of the key challenges. So the issues where we've seen data protection breaches so far have been where individuals have either failed to stick to a new policy or procedure, or where they have misunderstood what's expected of them, or there's been human error. And I think that kind of auditing of that, particularly the larger the business, the further away that the board are from the day-to-day work, I think that's really the key lesson that boards should take away, that they need to make sure that somebody is having that oversight, and somebody every quarter is just taking stock of what's actually going on. And as we approach 100 days, it would be a sensible first time for boards to really offer the challenge to somebody to go and audit and prove that what they thought they've embedded has actually taken hold.
Sure. Have you been just working with British companies, or were you working with any international companies?
We have worked with some international companies.
Okay.
We've worked with a couple of US companies and a couple of and I need to be careful what I say, because if I say I might identify them, but some other European companies, financial institutions that are active in the UK but are looking at it on a Europe-wide basis.
Sure. So, what are the different challenges, I guess, from an international point of view, than from the British point of view, with this?
Well, I think the fact that GDPR has been supplemented by the Data Protection Act 2018, so our legislative framework is slightly different, and there are perhaps in different countries where privacy is dealt with differently. That changes the cultural challenge of embedding GDPR compliance, but none of those things are insurmountable. They're just things to be aware of.
Sure. All right, that's great. I'll be kind of busy writing this up, and I've got some really good information from you. Yeah, thank you.
No problems. Would it be possible to see a copy of the article when it's done, so that we can stick it on our own website and all of that sort of jazz? Is that okay?
Yeah. We're planning on using it potentially for an ebook and also for blogs. So your comments will be definitely used with that. And I just wondered if I had any kind of more questions. Could I get back in touch with you?
Yeah, of course you have. Have you got my direct dial number?
I don't have your direct dial number. I'll
give it to you now.
Okay, let me just note it down. Yep.
It's 01743
743. Yep.
453
453
685.
685. And what's your email address?
It's paul.bennett@Aaron and Partners. That's AARON, and then the word and then the word partners.com.
So can you is it Bennett with two N's?
It's Bennett with two N's and then E and two T's.
Two T at sorry, could you repeat what you just said there?
Yeah, it's Bennett BENNET
at what's next?
Aaron and Partners. AARON, and then the word and then the word partners.
Okay.
That's great.
Okay, thanks. Thanks. You too. Bye.
All the best. Thanks. Bye bye.